Government and public sector organizations face unique challenges to accomplish complex missions with limited resources. One of those challenges is how to harness the rapidly growing amount of modern satellite imagery and related information for public sector uses. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and joining us to talk about that today are Jon Love, Vice President of Strategic Growth at Maxar, and Brandon Miller, Senior Account Manager for Maxar at AWS, or Amazon Web Services. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. And Jon, I'd like to start with you. Maxar has played a really important role delivering commercial satellite imagery to the U.S. government, actually for the last couple of decades. What kind of capabilities does Maxar offer today, and how has the cloud made a difference in recent years to advance Maxar's services to federal customers?
Well, Wyatt, first of all, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. It's a great time to have this conversation. I mean, if you look at really what's been happening across industry, I mean, we have this explosion of data, big data that's been taking place. There's a proliferation of sensors that are going up everywhere. Got my phone over here to the side, and it tells me every time the dog walks out in the backyard. I mean, we have sensors everywhere, and with all of that, it creates a tremendous amount of content, a lot of movement of the content. At Maxar, we've been collecting content for well over 20 years. We have, as you mentioned, a number of satellites in orbit that collect data about changes in phenomenology in the Earth, and just a lot that's going on from that perspective. We have, I think, up to 125 petabytes of data right now in our archive. So this advent of cloud computing certainly provides a tremendous amount of horsepower for us. We host most of that data on the AWS, as you know, and the ability for us to access that data is tremendously important for us.
And then, Brandon, I know Amazon partners with hundreds of federal system integrators and suppliers and others. Can you talk a little about how those partnerships and its work with Maxar in particular helps government innovate faster?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wyatt, again, thank you for having me on as well. And, as you may know, AWS is at global scale. We have 87 availability zones across 27 geographic regions, with 24 more of those availability zones coming online in the next year in Australia, Canada, Israel, New Zealand, Spain, Switzerland, and Thailand. This global reach really helps customers and partners like Maxar be able to serve their customers ultimately at this global scale. And Jon was talking about the tremendous amount of data that's starting to come into play. AWS has over 200 fully featured services to help manage compute, storage, database, IoT, mobile, virtual and augmented reality applications, and just simple application development for our commercial and public sector customers. And this is becoming really, really important as we start to talk about how do we do this securely with PCI DSS and HIPAA and high-tech, FedRAMP, GDPR, NIST 800-171, which is becoming CMMC. These things are, really challenging compliance requirements that customers and partners like Maxar have to be able to achieve while still running at speed and scale. And so those are some of the significant things I think that we, AWS, really help customers and partners like Maxar bring to their customers.
And Jon, back to you. Talk a little about some examples, if you would, about how Maxar is helping government agencies handle not only greater volumes of data, but make smarter decisions faster because of that data.
Yeah, one of the major things that's going on is government, especially analysts out there, are just being inundated with so much data. There's so much coming at them at one time. We collect, obviously, as I said before, a lot of that data as well, but we also augment that with a number of professionals. We have 700 plus software developers and the 1,700 clear personnel who also help with the analysis of that. And we're using, with today's tools, artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to be able to decipher that data and give them more situational awareness of what's on the ground. So to the extent that they need to know, is that an airplane down there? Which way is the wildfire moving? What's happening at the front lines? We're giving that unique insight by processing a lot of that before they get it to be able to speed that up. I think another thing that we're really focused on is not just the data itself, but the quality of the data. We're collecting higher resolution data, and we're augmenting that data with timelines that are being available to us because of cloud computing. That's getting that to the people who need to make decisions on that quickly. We call that sensor to decision. So from the time we collect to the time they can actually act on that is being reduced dramatically. And it's critically important for them to be able to deliver on those very important missions that are out there.
And this is a question maybe for both of you. What would you say agencies are able to do differently or more effectively today because of available cloud services than even a couple of years ago? John, maybe you can take that one first.
Well, one of the challenges that the governments are facing around the world is if you look at, and for what we do in many parts of the world, it's pretty cloudy. It's hard to be able to collect data, take pictures through satellites. So one of the things that has evolved pretty quickly is this multi-phenomenon ability. So the ability to take electro-optical, which is the camera that we're used to seeing, along with SAR, which is synthetic aperture radar, and even radio frequency data, combine those together and give them situational awareness where they didn't have it a couple of years ago. So even if you're over in an area where you just can't normally see, now you can still see, and you have machines that actually take a look and can tell you exactly what's going on the ground. So we're continuing to invest in that capability, and we're going to be bringing more of that solution to market.
That combination of technologies is really quite impressive. And then, Brandon, what would you add to that in terms of how cloud is making things just more effective for government agencies than even a couple of years ago?
Yeah, agility and elasticity are two of the major contributors that AWS brings to the table. You have a mission objective that's come up fast. It's come up, that you weren't planning for, and you need to churn through a lot of data. Some of the data John was talking about, where we need to do both SAR and electro-optical analysis quickly, do object detection, and maybe object detection at a scale that they've never done before. And they need to be able to take what they have proven, scale that up quickly, and then scale it right back down. Because coming back to cost control, we all want to make sure we're able to do this efficiently, effectively, but at the right cost. And especially when we talk about public sector customers, that's at the cost of the taxpayer. So we want to make sure we're being really diligent with that, but still meeting those mission objectives. And so they can do that faster. They can scale up, scale down, and it really helps close the loop on the sensor to decision maker timeline that John was talking about.
So, John, looking a little ahead, what do you see at Maxar as the art of the possible, if you will, for government agencies over the coming year or two because of the cloud?
Well, the cloud, again, it gives you tremendous horsepower. It really augments the ability to compute, to store, to process data and information in a new way. One of the things that we're working on right now is we're building the globe in 3D. So we're using this new 3D technology to provide them with situational awareness in places where they didn't have it before. So if you're driving a vehicle in an environment where you can't access the GPS signal, or even an airplane, an aircraft, and you're used to flying with your instruments, if you have access to this new 3D technology, this new 3D data, it gives you a real life replica of what the world is, what's there, and gives you the ability, if I'm on the ground, to see around the corner and see what I'm facing as I make this next turn, or be able to see, if I'm in an aircraft, what's over the next hill. Along with that, we're also doing what's called 3D registration. So we call it precision 3D registration, this P3DR, which basically takes different types of data, whether it's collected from a drone or from a satellite or an airplane, and overlays it with each other on this 3D map, and registers so that it's accurate, so that you can actually see, this is true, this is accurate, this really represents the true Earth that's in front of us. So we're excited about that. And again, the cloud gives us the ability to be able to process that large amount of data. You can imagine how much it takes to be able to do that, to be able to do it in a quality fashion, and again, provide the situational awareness that's needed quickly.
Well, it sounds like we're on the threshold of some really remarkable capabilities. And then finally, Brandon, back to you. What kind of advances from your perspective over the coming year do you envision that agencies can expect from AWS and its ecosystem of developers to help them to continue innovating?
Absolutely. Well, Wyatt, as you probably know, AWS makes the specialized technology that Amazon uses available to customers as services, so they can continue to innovate the same way that Amazon has historically. And that includes AI/ML forecasting, object detection, other really critical advanced technology. One thing that we announced recently over the last year that I'm really excited about is quantum computing. We have Amazon Bracket, which is a fully managed quantum computing service. And how this applies to public sector customers and government agencies is the possibility of things like quantum encryption, quantum communications, which is really fascinating. And of course, we have our annual conference coming up at the end of this month, which is reInvent, where we have some really exciting new things to announce that I wish I could talk about here, but I'm sure everybody will get to hear about that at the end of this month.
Well,
Yeah, Brandon, our folks are really looking forward to participating in that. That's
Yeah,
an exciting
absolutely.
conference every year.
And as you know, we work closely with Maxar, so Maxar is a part of a lot of those great advancements that we're doing, and hopefully we'll get to see Maxar as a part of some of those announcements at reInvent.
Absolutely. Well, Jon Love and Brandon Miller, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing some of your insights on the ways the cloud and the technology capabilities of Maxar are really helping government agencies do their jobs more effectively. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Thank you for having us.